Hello and welcome to a lovely another update of the AE86 project. This one I think I'm going to entitle Toyota Corrode'a, as it's now fondly named by my wife, and I think today we'll probably have a closer look as to why it is called the Toyota Corrode'a. So these cars, as far as I'm aware, are pretty notorious for rotting at the back. The front half of the car, to be fair, from what I've seen, is really good. There's no real major issues. Most of the issues are in the rear of the car, lower sills where the sill meets the rear arch, and also in the boot here, where these little sponge fillers, as you can see, are really dried and rotted. They sit behind the lights. The idea is they stop the water from getting in behind the lights and then getting into the boot, but I think they perish. I've had this before in other cars where the foam perishes and then they start letting in water. What you end up with a boot full or a spare wheel well full of water. I'm not saying that's the cause of this particular thing, but it certainly hasn't helped. So you can see from it's let water ingress and it's sat, and you can see great big holes in between the panels where you can see daylight where you shouldn't. So one side is worse than the other, certainly. And because to save weight they cut the spare wheel well out, I've got no wheel well at all, and it's just made up of a perspex sheet which has been sealed but very badly, so obviously that's going to come out. But more importantly, the actual, if you see here along the back end where the boot lining is, the boot doesn't actually meet the back panel, so the back panel, a lot of the back panel here is actually rotted away. So subsequently this is not load bearing in any form whatsoever. I think what I'm going to try and do is try and source myself a spare wheel well from probably a Toyota of some sort. At the end of the day, they're just generic kind of shapes and sizes, and put that in. Not all the floor forward is damaged, but certainly the back end here is going to need to be cut out, and new panels going to have to be made up because you can't buy floors for these anymore. And if someone has got a car which has got a decent floor and a decent back end, they're going to be selling it as a complete shell, which isn't cost effective because a complete shell sells for £1,800, something like that. So it's going to be a case of making up panels to get this to fit. Round this side of the rear quarter, which obviously from the outside has always been bad, but again you can see here where the inner skin and the outer skin, you can see daylight through there, so there's obviously clearly some rot going on behind there. I won't know obviously until we start cutting it back and having a closer look, but this side is certainly very bad. This looks quite clean, and in terms of where it meets the back of the car, we have got a hole there, but again it looks quite clean underneath. I think it's just where the water's sat, and it could be where this spring catches. They've got this little catch, and it may be a case of that's nicked some of the metal and it's just rotted over time, I don't know, but that doesn't look too bad to cut out and to replace. But the upper side of the boot here looks pretty good. That all looks solid, so most of the nastiness is boot floor and down. Go around to the front of the car. I've taken the time to, or should I say very carefully taken the time to remove all the electric motor custom mounts that was here. So at the beginning there was the guys have obviously bolted and welded in this kind of cross frame which took which they mounted the electric motor to, but I think they also probably sat like the speed controller to control the motor on top. So anyway, so I've cut all of that out, which is another weight saving thing, which is great. A lot of that steel was starting to rot anyway, but it's known I've got no use for it now because I need to make space for the engine to go back in there. So what I've done is cut them out, unbolted where possible, and cut frames out where it's welded in, and then ground the welds down. The reason it's black is because when you're cutting and grinding this all back, you leave bare kind of virgin metal, and when I'm outside like this, or even inside, any moisture that gets to it will just start rusting it straight away. Obviously it's only going to be surface rust, it's not going to rot the car overnight, but just to save that I've just used some black spray paint that I had in the garage just to cover it up to make sure it's okay. But in doing so I have discovered some nasty little bits of metal that are going to have to be cut out and replaced. To be honest, in the engine bay it's mainly just this section here, this little square section here, and on the inside of this wing. But that's not going to be too bad. Just here. So what I need to do is just cut this out and form up a new piece of steel and weld that in. But I'll rub the metal back a little bit further just to see how bad and how far the rust has gone. But other than that, that's pretty much, well, that's that element done. I thought I'd end this episode with, well, a bit of an experiment really. I'm not sure whether I'm going to even go as far as to say it's a how-to guide, but this is the HKS manifold that I got second hand. Although it's stainless steel, it's got a very kind of light dusting of rust and like brown muck all over it, and like black dots and so on. So I did have a go at rubbing this down and polishing it, but I wasn't getting very far. So anyway, I did find on the internet that somebody suggested that you use salt domestic toilet cleaner. This particular one contains hydrochloric acid, which is important to wear gloves and goggles, of course, for safety first and all that. So anyway, I'm giving it a go, and to be fair, it's quite surprising. It's only just brushing this on at the moment, and it is effectively toilet cleaner. I'm quite surprised at how much of this dirt is actually taken off. So anyway, I'd like to thank you all for watching the episodes, and for those who subscribe, thank you very much. Next episode, I think we should have, hopefully the rotisserie will be here by then, so I'll be mounting that to the car and I can run through setting that all up, and so we can rotate the whole frame 360 degrees. Beyond that, I've got some prep I need to do for the Nürburgring. Obviously not in the usual project, the AE86, but another car that I've got, which I'll probably do a little video on that and talk through that. But yeah, thanks very much.